it's always an honor to host an event for organizations that work so closely with Afghanistan. But CARE is a special place. It's because of its people. I've always known about the work that it does, and as we were working on this event, the more I read about the people that are involved, the more I felt compelled that I have to say something from my heart rather than what my colleagues are going to draft for me. So excuse me for brevity if that is the case, but I wanted to, before we begin, I wanted to thank all of our guests, Senator Shaheen, Congressman Garmandi. I'm not sure if he's here yet, but I know this I'm going to stick to the script. I don't want to miss anybody. Ambassador Mohib, who is here and left, Ambassador Korias of Norway, Ambassador Laura Staku from Kosovo, and former Ambassador of Yemen, Abdul Wahab Al-Hijri. I think I saw him earlier here. Ambassador Ryan Crocker, General Carter Ham, and General Campbell. Friends of the Embassy of Canada, Australia, and the U.S. Department of State, and Defense in USAID, and all of you here, welcome to our embassy. This building has been here since 1943. This has been our embassy, and I say that because that's when those periods of time are not always remembered. That when people think about the U.S.-Afghan relationship, they think about 9/11 and what happened since. But when we talk about organizations like CARE, who have been in Afghanistan since 1961 and has remained committed to the country and our people throughout that period, whether it's their work with women or in healthcare, maternal health care, they've been consistently on the ground. When you think of Afghanistan, you think of the Afghanistan of the 2002. A place which was literally turned into rubble. We had no institutions, no government. There were 8,000 students at universities across the country. This is, by contrast, today we graduate over 300,000 students from universities and institutions of higher education every year. I say this because it was a time when most Afghans had to flee the country, and those who didn't have the options remained. And many of the organizations who worked with Afghans also felt that it was no longer hospitable for them to be able to operate. CARE remained and continued to work with at a difficult period, to continue to provide all kinds of assistance, including education for women, to ensure that we were prepared when a time and opportunity presents itself. Now, not many of us hoped that opportunity will present itself, but the last 16 years has changed the country. We today are no longer that country that was in rubble. And to give you an anecdote from one of my friends, a British colleague in Afghanistan who owned an IT company, his car was broken into while he was sightseeing, and he called me, and I went to see him. I thought he would be in extreme distress. He said, "No, Abdullah, I'm very happy." I said, "How can you be happy? Your car broken into, and your laptop was stolen, your phone." He said, "Well, petty crime has arrived in Afghanistan." That's a sign of progress. So, we are a new country. We do have challenges, enormous challenges, from security to political, and those challenges will continue to keep us awake at night sometimes, and we'll continue to try our best efforts. But today, those challenges are more on par with what the rest of the world has. And there is more in common with it. Afghanistan is no longer an isolated country that is not connected to anywhere in the world. In fact, in 2002, if you wanted to make a phone call, you had to go across the Durand line into Pakistan or another country where you could make a phone call abroad. That's no longer the case. Today, Afghanistan is connected to all of its Central Asian neighbors, and Iran and Pakistan for that matter. And not just that, we have air corridors with India. There are students studying across the world. We are competing in technological competitions across, some of you maybe, and Senator Shaheen is a witness of some of the robotics team girls who came to Washington, and many people only know the story of their prevention from coming to the US, their problems with visa. They had other issues too. While everyone else had about 3 months to program their robots, those girls had about a week, and it was because our customs would not let that robot be cleared. They didn't know what it was. So it took a long time for them to receive it and then to get here. But I'm happy to report that after their first competition in the United States, they've gone on to compete at other competitions in Europe. And 2 weeks ago, they won a robotics competition in Estonia, ahead of Poland and Estonia itself. So the reason I say all of this is we would not be where we are if it wasn't for the good people and the belief that organizations and the people behind CARE had in Afghanistan to give us a chance at what we are building today. I want to say a few things about some of the people that are here, whether it's Nancy Fontaine and Tex Fontaine, Dusty Husher, and Susan. I are particularly touched by the stories of all of these people who are not only donors to CARE, but by the kind of resilience they have shown in their own life and the generosity they have. And that's what had me convinced that we needed to do this event here today, just because of those kind of people that are behind CARE and what they have done for this organization and for Afghanistan. Many of you that I met today, some of you had traveled to Afghanistan before in the 1960s and 70s when it was a completely different country, perhaps still very poor but free from conflict, and an aspiration that we all have to work towards. I will not go in details about the work of CARE because I know Michelle is going to introduce and talk about it, but I do want to introduce Senator Shaheen, who is here with us today. She is the first woman in U.S. history to be elected both governor and a United States senator. Senator Shaheen is known for her common sense leadership, hard work, and dedication to improving lives. She has served in the United States since 2009, as United States Senate since 2009, and is a member of the Senate Committee on Armed Services, Foreign Relations, Appropriation, and a ranking member of the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee. We have so appreciated Senator Shaheen's incredible leadership on the International Violence Against Women Act and Women, Peace and Security Act, but also on a personal note for her help with the aforementioned robotics team when they were here, and your continued leadership on all issues related to women in Afghanistan and as a people of Togo. Thank you. Since we're all here, I also want to recognize the commitment and support that countries like Norway and the UAE have shown to Afghanistan in the last 16 years and before. They are also one of the two countries who have remained engaged with us through thick and thin, and we greatly appreciate their support. I would like to introduce Michelle Nunn, who will come and talk more about CARE and why we are here today. She's the president and CEO of CARE USA. Nunn took the helm of CARE in July 2015. She has devoted her career to civic and public service as a social entrepreneur, a nonprofit CEO, and a candidate for U.S. Senate. She co-founded the volunteer mobilization organization, Hands On Atlanta, growing its volunteer engagement model from a single entity to a national network of more than 50 affiliates. Ms. Nunn then served as CEO of Points of Light, originally founded by President George W. Bush. Michelle Nunn is the daughter of former Senator Sam Nunn of Georgia, longtime chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, who served in the United States Senate in 1972 to 1997. Congratulations, Ms. Nunn, for the great work that you do, and please welcome to the stage.
So, Ambassador Mohib, thank you so much for allowing us to be here in this extraordinary place and to celebrate the progress of women and girls in Afghanistan. I'm going to turn over the podium without further ado, because you already did such a good job of introducing Senator Shaheen. But just to say that in Senator Shaheen, we have, I think, we could not ask for a more extraordinary advocate, for a more dedicated public servant, for somebody who brings humility and pragmatism and common sense solutions and is truly a champion for women and girls, not only here, but in every corner of the world. So thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador Mohib and Michelle Nunn, for both of you for such generous introductions. Actually, Michelle is really very graciously trying to help me out so I can make my remarks and get on to the next event that I have to go to, so I very much appreciate that. It's so nice to be here with former Ambassadors Bush and Ambassador Crocker, who I had a chance to see not when he was in Afghanistan, but when he was in Iraq. And I very much appreciate his defending us from being shelled while we were at the embassy in Iraq. But thank you, and thank you to all of the other ambassadors and dignitaries who are here, and all of the supporters of Afghanistan. And a special thanks to CARE for your very important and successful work. And congratulations to all of the award winners tonight who are here. You have made significant contributions that are life-changing to women and girls in Afghanistan, and for that we are all very grateful. You know, I've had an opportunity as a senator to support our efforts in Afghanistan, and I have been a supporter. One of the big reasons that I have supported our continued engagement in Afghanistan is because of the difference that it's made for women and girls. And you know, I come from a small state in New Hampshire where there's a lot of interest in international relations, but beyond that, not a lot of people who are serving. And yet, when I talk to my constituents and the issue of Afghanistan comes up, one of the things that is always mentioned is, well, what would happen if the United States pulled out? What would happen to the women and girls in Afghanistan? So this is something that has captured people across this country. And while we know there is more work to do, we also know, as the ambassador has said, what significant progress has been made in the country. You know, I have been impressed by the commitment of President Ghani, who has been a true champion of women's rights. And I have to say, the first time I met President Ghani after he got elected, he pointed out that we have something in common. We both have spouses who are of Lebanese heritage. And I have been equally impressed by First Lady Rula Ghani, who has been an advocate for women's rights and an excellent role model for women in the country. As she said last year in Berlin, the Western media has depicted the Afghan woman as a helpless, weak individual. I have said before, and I shall repeat it, the Afghan woman is strong, the Afghan woman is resourceful, the Afghan woman is resilient. I think that explains it very well. And I had a chance to see that firsthand, as the ambassador said, earlier this year when we got engaged with helping the girls' robotics team come to the United States. They were denied visas. As the ambassador said, they had trouble getting their robots. So they wound up actually building their own robots from what they could find in the country. They were not able to actually get the robots. And it was so inspirational to talk to them. And I actually have a personal connection to robotics because the robotics competition began in New Hampshire with the inventor Dean Kamen, who came up with this idea that we should be as excited about engineering and science and math as we are about sports. And this was the way to engage people and to see these young girls and their excitement and what they were able to accomplish. And I was talking to their sponsor, who said that in addition to convincing their families this was something they should be able to do, and dealing with the problems with the technicalities of getting their robots built, that they also had to deal with the male teams that they were competing against, because they had not ever competed against young men, and how challenging that was. And of course, they went on to win the silver medal in the competition here for courageous achievement. And then, of course, as the ambassador said, they won in Tallinn, Estonia earlier this month. And congratulations to all of them. That is an example of what happens when young women and girls are empowered and they are helped to achieve their full potential. And that is what I hope some of the other legislation that we have will allow us to do. The ambassador mentioned the Women, Peace and Security Act. And like so much of what we know about having women at the table, we know that when women are involved in conflict resolution, that we tend to achieve longer lasting peace. And that was confirmed for me by the Secretary General for UN Women, who came to meet with me not too long ago, and she was telling me about the negotiations between the FARC rebels and the Colombian government. And she said, you know, we had some women negotiators as part of those teams, and what we saw was that when they would reach an impasse, that the women would signal each other and they'd go to the ladies' room, and they would work out how to get by that impasse between them, so they could keep the negotiations moving forward. And I can tell you, as somebody who, when I was governor, had a public ladies' room because we had no executive washroom, that it was on the same floor as the legislature, and we were able to get a lot done in that ladies' room. So I think that's a new opportunity for negotiations. But I just want to close by pointing out that if we think of what can be achieved when we fully empower the neglected half of the population, just imagine. I met recently with the ambassador, actually the High Representative, I have to get this title right, for Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we were talking about the importance of empowering women. And he said, if someone gave you a bag of gold, why would you throw half of it away? And that's what we should think about as we think about the opportunities we have to empower women and girls, what a difference it makes for them, for their families, for their communities, and for their countries. And that's what we're seeing in Afghanistan. So congratulations to all of you who are making that happen.
So thank you, Senator Shaheen. We are so grateful to you for your vision and for your